Hey, it's really important to me that I help contextualize for you what is going on in Gaza right now. And by that, I mean the famine. Now, I'm going to be reading sometimes verbatim, and I'm going to be giving you every source that I use up here. I'm a historian. I work with primary and legitimate secondary source documents. I'm doing the same thing here. So just to be clear, over 500,000 people, a quarter of the population of Gaza, are facing famine. The rest are suffering from emergency level hunger. Every single child under the age of 5, that's 320,000 children, are at risk of acute malnutrition. Okay, so how did we get here? Now, I'm not going to cover the entire history of this conflict. Actually, you can check out my playlist. I've been doing my best to contextualize the whole conflict. But for now, how did we get specifically to this level of famine? Well, you might remember that earlier in the year, there was a ceasefire that lasted for at least a few weeks, and that allowed a lot of aid to come into Gaza. That ceasefire has ended, and something else really important happened that a lot of us might not have been paying too much attention to, and that was that the state of Israel decided that it was going to take over the distribution of all aid into Gaza. Now, Israel claimed they were doing this because Hamas was taking the aid or was working with relief organizations. There has been literally zero evidence that this is happening by every single expert and eyewitness in Gaza. The other thing I just want to make sure is really clear is that this is not about humanitarian aid. This is about the state of Israel's legal obligation to provide food for an occupied group of people. So if Israel is occupying parts of Gaza, which they are, they're required under international law to make sure that those people have access to food. So the idea of this humanitarian, like this is somehow charity, no. So there's a few problems with the GHF being in control of all aid going into Gaza. For one, it's because the GHF is closely identified with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. They're using this militarized model. And so the only sites, what few sites there are for Palestinians, people in Gaza, to go and receive aid are in IDF-controlled territories, which is immediately putting those people, the people of Gaza, in danger. The second thing is that the GHF is severely restricting the aid that's coming in. For example, around 1,100 truckloads of aid reached the Israeli side of the Kerem Shalom border crossing, but humanitarian organizations were only able to collect around 400 for onward distribution. And then of those 400, they're all going to these GHF sites where we have evidence that the IDF is firing upon Palestinians who are going and trying to seek aid. Just since the GHF began operating in May 2025, around 1,400 people have been killed and more than 4,000 injured while seeking food. To add to the crisis, this bottleneck that's forming because of aid and the control of Israel over the movement of all the people in Gaza is making it very hard for even independent humanitarian workers to provide aid where they can. Dozens of internationally recognized UN experts said, quote, "Blocking or delaying aid is not just inhumane, it is a war crime where it is intended to starve civilians and in the context of a well-documented and globally denounced genocide." Those are the facts as we know it right now.